Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's August 6th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And here's a quick look at our daily chart. You can see we just kind of had a mixed trading day inside bar. We did close higher. All the same, we closed higher. We traded much, much higher, but we couldn't sustain that. Really, once we got back up here in this same price level around 53.49, 53, 48 or so, the selling came back in and we sold it back down again. It did recover off the lows, but and close higher, but nothing to get excited about there really. We'll see what tomorrow brings, but there was no news today. There was, nothing really came out. Nothing's really happened with the Iran stuff. So I just think there wasn't anything to really. People are just kind of sitting tight. It rallied a little bit, sold off a little bit, um, and it was just kind of a mixed trading day with people unsure of what to expect. So you can see it there, but let's flip over to the 2,000 tick chart. A lot less volume today, that's for sure. Um, so let's flip over there and we can take a look at that. Here it is. It looked like we were going to really rally on out of this thing and maybe recover back a good bit of, recover all of what had sold off. I mean, at one time, I think if you back out here, you can see we had almost recovered it all. You can see from the close the previous day, we were really, really close to that. So didn't quite get there, but and it does look like we had two legs up. I didn't put the measurement on there, but you can see we had a leg. That's the first move, second move, and we didn't quite make that measured move. And then you can see that led to a bigger sell-off. It really just kind of moved back down into the midline before closing a little bit. And market's going to open here any second. It's almost 5 o'clock again, so it's going to open up any second. And we'll see where we go from there. We'll get a little movement before I shut down here, but that never means much of anything because it could change considerably between now and 7 o'clock or so tomorrow. But let's zoom in here and go through the trades. Not a lot of them today because there's just not a lot of really good price movement, or either there's not a lot of good setups. One of the, it's a mix of both of those. But here we're moving down and we got a close outside. This is a pretty good channel down. It looked like this might even be a retest from the earlier channel. I think you could argue that's the case, but I drew it anyway just to see what would happen. This didn't really come into play. There's no setups here because 7 o'clock came as we're going through this congestion here. So yeah, there's a second entry here, but it's just too congested and you don't really have any confirmation of this trend line. It looked like we were going to get some confirmation here and we just went into this congestion. But notice what happened right here. We had this big bullish breakout and we break higher and fail and turn down instantly and go through that big green bar in a which is what you would expect to happen on a single bar, on an engulfing bar. I like trading that as an engulfing bar. Would I go short down here at these lows? Probably not. It still continued lower, but I don't know if I would. I probably wouldn't enter there if I didn't enter this on the congestion. I'm sorry, on the engulfing bar, one tick below the green bar here. I'd probably skip that trade. And we come down here and we do kind of found support at the overnight lows right there. We found support there yesterday, so there's some proven support there. And we try to rally out of here. I don't see anything that makes me want to go long here. And we start coming back again. There's nothing really to short here. And finally we get a second entry short right here, and this plays out. You get a move up, correction, move to a new high, and it turns down. So a break below that is a second entry short, and you're looking for a retest of these lows here. And you still might even be looking for one from this channel and this channel. Actually, I take that back. We actually made a new low on the what looked like the original retest, but we still didn't make one on this blue one, so there's still a good chance we're going lower here yet. May even break below this overnight lows. And that's what we did. We got a retest there. Clearly a couple of legs down here, and there's a two-legged correction in the middle there, so generally you look for some kind of measured leg. And you can see we're close in there. We didn't quite get a measured leg, but it looked like we were going to get a measured leg and we dropped down. And that's what will happen sometimes. It'll go a little further, or it'll come up a little short or whatever. But this rebounds quickly and you get a high or low. I like, as long as you got room back to the EMA there, I like trading that back to the long side on the failed breakout on that high or low. And if you catch that, that's probably the only trade you need today, because you get a huge runner on this. And you can see if you just went up till you got your first bearish bar and a break below it, or even the second one, it's still, 28 plus points on a single contract. And so that's really all you need, maybe in a single day, to hit your goal and surpass it. And you see that a lot on these failed break lowers and a failed break higher. You really see it a lot on the failed break lowers, but you'll see the same thing when prices fail out the top side. Just like right here, you got a pretty good move down. Now we did hit the support again. But those failed breakouts, if you can find the right setup, they oftentimes will lead to huge runners. So when we're chopping around in something like this, I usually don't even try to get a runner, because you're just going to get chopped up and waste a lot of runners. I usually just scalp out. But when we get a failed breakout like this, or like this, I might go for a runner then. Here, like I said, you probably wouldn't want to the short side, because you got the overnight lows just right here. So you don't have a lot of room. Here, we may find the bottom in a reversal, and this sky may be the limit. So this one's worth going for a runner on it. And you see how that worked out. A really nice move up. You get a close outside, a couple of legs up, and it turns down. Now, I didn't mark this. And again, it looks a lot like a failed breakout. So you may take that trade. I would mark that one green when you wait on the lower high. And somebody always sends me, it never fails, every day almost, I get a question about trading the range. And if the breakout makes a new high like this, especially if it closes outside, you always pretty much want to wait on a lower high, because your timing might be off. Doesn't mean you didn't read it right or you didn't have the right idea. Usually you're going to be, what happens is people are slightly early, and so those things happen. Now there's another one here that we had a possible trend line, so I didn't really like going short here, but there is a triple test here, and this broke higher and failed and turned out. Now if you wait till this closes, there's too much stem. But if you saw that as a first entry, and then when it broke higher and failed and turned out as a second entry short on that engulfing bar. Now that's not a perfectly green bar, but it's not real big. It's kind of, for a day like today, it's only what we've had the last couple of days. It's not a huge bar, but you might, with plenty of room back to the EMA, you might take that engulfing bar. I'm willing to make that green. I thought hard about it, but you got to be careful with those. So I didn't think this was a good enough bar for engulfing. But with it being a second entry and a triple test, and such a, everything's been so bearish, maybe you take it. It would have worked. Of course, it ends up reversing and going the other way, but you still would have got your scalp out of it. I mean, there's 3.5, almost 4 points you could have got right there. So, but it bounces and continues higher, and then finally you get a break here, and you get a first entry, and then of course you get a second entry right here, which you wouldn't want to take. You get a little failed break here. I didn't mark that one, but again, that one could be green. You usually want to wait on the high or low. We do have two legs correction here, and we do have the break and new low, and that would actually be a second entry long, but you just have to be careful on that first break lower. I was trading this more sideways stuff, but then you get your higher low here. I like that one a lot. and it runs all the way back up, and it does turn out to be sideways stuff, but you can clearly see the two legs here, and it's basically perfect two-leg correction. So, and that could be the middle of a pattern, so you always want to draw your, look for a possible another leg up like this one, but we ended up going sideways here. I didn't want to clutter my chart up. We ended up just going sideways. And I want to say somebody took a trade in here. I can't remember where it was. I don't know if this is where it was or not. But if it was, they had their line drawn much lower. And I think they traded this right here. Either way, it still makes a higher high, and you basically only have a double top here. So, if you're going to take that one, it's one that's going to be green. But I don't think that's it, because I think that trade is going to give you more than what you need, which it does. And the problem is it gaps over and jumps down real fast. Your lower high doesn't qualify. Maybe it was here they entered, but again, you got enough to get out right there. So I don't know if this must not have been where it was. Anyway, I still like that one as a possible green, because you got your break here. But the thing is, you have that two-legged correction, so you could have another trend working up here. To me, it looks more sideways. So once you got that new high there, it may come back to the EMA. And again, you get two legs correction, and it comes back up again. And I don't think you want to enter this one that closes outside. So you just kind of wait. This one is a lower high here, but this is your signal bar. It doesn't qualify. And then you fell out the bottom, but you don't get a setup here either. So this runs on up, you get a break, first entry, and then when it breaks above that, second entry long, and there's you another second entry long that takes off. You're just expecting a retest of the high here, but we are in a possible bigger channel. Earlier, I was thinking this might be a spiking channel, spike up, and this was the channel, but this just turns out to be the midline here. So, and at 9:30, you couldn't be sure, so because we already had the move down here, so I was just still playing the range at that point. You really needed more price action for that. So this is just a failed break out of this stuff right here, maybe you call it. So we'd already broken out down here before, so this was pretty much a race down here. So you just got a channel working up, second entry long, and that one runs up high again. Don't try to pick a top here. Maybe you take a lower high. This would be considered a lower high, but it's moved too far to be tradable, and we've already come off the EMA. So I don't think I would take that trade. It's a possibility if you want to be a little aggressive, but I would wait. And then we're just chopping around in here, and you get this one inside. Now it's got a big stem that comes way up, but you got this support, or I'm sorry, this resistance line, you're back in the range. You've been going from high to low, high to low, high to low, and so this one may have trapped some more people up here, and you got plenty of room here to scalp out. So I marked it as a green. Again, you're better off to wait on the lower high after you make a new high like that. And here's your lower high, but you've got too much stem there. And this just takes off. That's just a first entry out of a little congestion. Here we're just chopping around now. Notice you get a break here and a move to a new low. So this is a higher low. I really thought we may take on off here and find the bottom. It's an easy scalp, but you don't get anything more out of it. But I liked it at the time because it's a triple test. It's a higher low. You've had your break and a new low. And so I really thought we might get a little more out of that, but that thing all of a sudden reverses, and boom, we head down here, and it proves out we do have a trend line down here. And once again, I traded the higher low here. We run straight down. So now you got your break, move to a new low, and you get a higher low. And look how far we are away from the EMA. I like going long there. It takes a minute to take off, but it does take off. You probably don't get a runner here, unfortunately, because you would have scapped out here and it comes back and gets any break-even stop. So unless you were playing this really, really conservatively, and or I'm sorry, it would be just the opposite. Unless you were being really aggressive and keeping your original stop down at the original place, you're probably not going to catch a runner here. But if you did catch a runner, it might be a pretty good one. But most likely, you know, I wouldn't catch a runner here because I'm not going to play it that aggressive. I'm just going to get my scalp and then say, "Oops, I was wrong." My runner gets stopped out, and I'm looking for my next trade. Now there is another second entry here, but I didn't like going. That just looks too congested to me. Same thing here. We're still in the. It looks like maybe. Let's just draw it so there's no confusion. You can see it looks like a bit of a range congestion. And you don't want to be going long out of that because it generally fails. And it does try to come back twice here and test that. If it would have come back and tested it once more and gave me a good signal bar, I'd say, hey, let's go long here. But we didn't get that. It does look like the trend line's still intact, though. But these are just first entries. So, and of course, now you're right back up to the high of the range. You got to be careful. You don't want to be going long out of here unless you get some multiple tests. Or maybe you consider going short, but you never get a setup. So you might think, well, hey, this looks a little like a triple test on a failed breakout, but you just don't have much room back to the trend line or here. And I just don't think it's worth taking. And if you did, you see, you still would have got out of that, believe it. No, it looks like it's, yeah, no, it's exactly, you'd had a one tick failure there. So it's just not enough room there. It looks a little sideways again. So try to steer. Of course, this one would have given you a chance to get out of it. It came down there and tested that multiple times before it got back to the trend line. So if you did take it, it gave you a chance to get out before it would have stopped you out. That's one of those cases where I'd say, yep, you got caught in congestion, get out of it, and save face, get a tick or two or break even or whatever it'll give you, and get the heck out of it. Now, you won't hear me tell you to do that much because most of the time you'll end up losing if you do that because you'll get it wrong every time. If you hang in there, you'll get stopped out, and if you exit, it'll go exactly where you thought it would go, or you could have gotten out, and you'll see that a lot. And so you have to be consistent in what you do. And generally, I just tell people, don't monkey around with your trades. Just take them. Unless you realize you've made a bad read, but if you've got your trend line here and you went short into that trend line, then you probably know, hey, that's not a bad read. I was being too aggressive. So the trend line basically overruled the range, and you see even then it went higher and it comes back and it tests that breakout area a few times before it goes higher. Now I'll show you something else here. There's a failed second entry short here, but that just looks, there's just too much resistance right there. It's probably going to trap people and go higher. It's not really where you want to see a failure at. Generally you want a continuation to be here, but this would be more along the lines of a reversal. Now it could be considered a reversal simply because we're testing the top of the range where we usually turn down, and this time it's not going to work, so they're going to trap shorts and go the other way. So this is not just advanced, this is very, very advanced. I'll mark it green, but generally you're not looking for a reversal there. But if you understand how ranges work, then maybe you are looking for a reversal there. It turns out to be a really nice move, and then we're just chopping sideways again. I don't see anything here that I would take. This maybe, but it's not even a double bottom, but you can see all the support across. Actually, at the time, you probably should have had this right here. And if you see that, you still see it makes a lower low, so maybe you wait on the higher low, but it's a possibility. And it would have worked. And same thing here when it breaks out at the top, possibility. This one's got too much stem. This one's green. And then here you get another one here. It's a possibility. You prefer a higher low, but then the signal bar is no good, but it does take off. So a bunch of greens in there. And this is too congested. Break here and a couple of swings up and then a lower high. I like that just to trade it back to the EMA. Maybe catch a top, and boy, it turns out to be a top. Look at it go, boom. And you're just trading. You see the green channel. You get a close outside, 2 swings to a new high and a lower high. So even here you had an engulfing bar, but don't trade that because you need a lower high to prove that, hey, maybe we're going lower now. And there it is, and boom. And then you get a break and 2 legs to a new low, and it reverses and goes back this way. Not very far, but there's nothing to really trade down here. This one would have been tempting if you didn't have that little doji in there and you had enough room to the EMA. But the way it sits there, I wouldn't trade it. Here, you come back and test the lows again. But again, that signal bar, it's a possibility. Not the best signal bar, though. And you do have room to scalp out, but you can see it goes, makes a new high, and turns back down. Just kind of what you'd expect price action to do. So I'll mark it green, but I'm not crazy about it because it could backfire on you. And then we make a little double bottom here, and boom, you got another leg going up, and you get a close outside, new high, and you actually get another close outside here and another new high. So and this is a second entry short here. The problem is you could still make another leg up, but when it tries to go higher and fails, and you still got that much room back to the EMA, I like taking that one. That's a lower high off following the second entry, and that takes you into 230. So there it is. Much less price action than what we saw yesterday. Much less volume, I guess I should say. A lot fewer trades. A lot of green ones in here. Because this is all mixed trading. It's a lot harder to trade. You can get tripped up a lot easier. So be careful with the mixed trading. But there was some opportunity here. It's hard to really know what's going to happen after today's looking at the daily chart. So I would say probably more of the same tomorrow. Maybe we'll continue to creep up until this thing, till something happens. Some kind of trigger kicks in or something. But as of now, I'd say we're probably going to see more of the same tomorrow. A lot of mixed trading. Maybe some rallies, maybe some sell-offs, and probably just kind of creeping sideways. Let's go back to that daily chart again. And you can see it. We're just, my guess is we probably continue to creep sideways. We may trend higher, and we could rally out of here because we do have this trend down, a break, and a new low. Now, sometimes you'll make 2 legs to a new low. We've also got the green, and that's the first close outside, so you'd expect a retest of the highs on that. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I would think that prices are going to go higher. We just, it just moves a lot slower on a daily chart. So, you could make 3 or 4 or 5 bars here in 30 minutes on a 20 to 30 minutes on a regular chart, or maybe even more bars. But on here, that's one day. 1 bar is a whole day, so it moves real slow, and it takes a little more time to set up. So but still the rules tend to follow. So I would say we're probably still going to go higher again at some point. That's what the price action rules and the chart tells us after years of experience watching this thing, that prices should try to go higher and make a retest, especially on a rally that's, unless we're reading something wrong. Sometimes we read something wrong. Maybe my green channel is not right. Maybe there was a break here and a move to a new high. Maybe it was just a spike in channel and we had a break in a new high. So maybe my green channel is no good. It surely looks good there to me. Now there was a close there. Is that convincing outside? I don't know. You could probably adjust it just a little and make it still fit and work, and it does. So it's hard to say. I'm guessing that the green channel is valid. But I don't know that for a fact. And it seems like at one time we had this much lower here. And it still fits well there. So we could have had an overshoot and then now a big sell-off. So it's just so hard to know for sure when you got a chart that looks like this one does on a daily chart. So we'll just have to ride this out and see if we're right here, because it still fits good there. So it's really hard to know. I mean, even that midline fits through there. So I'm just not sure. You know, I wouldn't bet on it, me being 100% right on this chart, because sometimes you can be off. Now, again, if it's a 2,000 tick chart, we'll know pretty quick. But on a daily chart, we're probably not going to know for a few days until it starts playing out again. But now if we start heading higher, I would expect that we're going to retest these highs. So just keep that in mind, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to wrap it up for today. This is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.